The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with voices from 100 different worlds. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the massive chamber, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some floated in tanks of liquid methane, others stood on 6 legs covered in shining scales, and a few existed as pure energy contained within glowing crystals. At the center of it all sat the High Council table, where the 3 most powerful species in known space held court. The Velkari Empire controlled the Eastern Spiral Arm with their perfect order and endless rules. The Thurian Collective dominated the galactic core with their advanced energy technology. The Rogan Federation ruled the Outer Rim through military, might, and warrior traditions. Today they would decide the fate of humanity. Vextar of the Velkari Empire raised one of his 4 arms for silence. His insect-like head turned slowly as he scanned the chamber. When he spoke, his voice clicked and buzzed through the translation devices worn by every delegate. "We gather today to address a growing concern," Vextar announced. "The species known as humans have become a problem that can no longer be ignored." A ripple of agreement moved through the chamber. Some delegates nodded their heads, others flashed colors of approval across their skin, and a few hummed in harmony with their neighbors. Senthara, the Thurian representative, pulsed brighter within her crystal housing. Her voice came as pure, thought transmitted to every mind in the room. "For 100 years we have watched these humans with interest. They showed promise at first contact. Their curiosity seemed admirable. But we have learned the truth," growled Korthak of the Rogan Federation. His massive reptilian form leaned forward, yellow eyes gleaming. "They are chaos incarnate. Violence follows them like a shadow." Vextar activated a holographic display above the council table. Images of human history flickered to life. Wars, conflicts, destruction. The delegates watched with growing disgust. "Observe their past," Vextar continued. "They have fought wars over pieces of land. They have killed each other over differences in belief systems. They even fight over resources when they could simply trade for what they need." The hologram showed human soldiers in battle, cities burning, weapons of terrible power being used against their own species. The assembled aliens shuddered at the primitive brutality displayed before them. "But surely they have evolved beyond such behavior?" asked Dr. Moonen, a younger Thurian whose energy form flickered with uncertainty. "Species can change. We have all had violent pasts." Korthak slammed his clawed fist on the table. "We fought with honor. We battled for territory, and mates as nature intended. These humans fight for ideas, for concepts that exist only in their minds. They create enemies where none need exist." The hologram shifted to show more recent events. Human diplomats arguing with alien representatives. Human traders getting into disputes over contracts, human explorers ignoring established territorial boundaries. "They refuse to follow proper procedures," Vextar explained. "When we offer them the proven systems that have brought peace to the galaxy for thousands of years, they question everything. They want to change rules that have worked since before their species learned to make fire." Ambassador Thex of the Aquarian Depths raised a webbed hand. "Perhaps their different perspective could be valuable. Fresh ideas often lead to progress." "Progress?" Synthara's form flared with indignation. "They suggest solving our carefully negotiated border disputes through something called sports competitions. They propose settling trade disagreements with games of chance. They lack the sophisticated thinking required for true civilization." The chamber filled with the alien equivalent of laughter. Clicks, buzzes, harmonic tones, and flashing lights showed the amusement of the gathered representatives. "Remember the incident at the Centauri Trade Summit?" Korthak asked, his scarred face twisting into what might have been a smile. "The human delegate suggested we resolve a complex mineral rights dispute by having our champions engage in something called arm wrestling." More laughter filled the chamber. The very idea seemed ridiculous to species that had spent millennia developing complex legal frameworks and diplomatic protocols. Vextar waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "But their primitive nature is not merely amusing. It poses a real threat to galactic stability." The hologram changed again, showing statistical data and star charts. In the 100 years since first contact, there have been 47 minor conflicts in regions where humans have established trade routes. Before human involvement, these same regions enjoyed peace for over 3,000 years. A murmur of concern rippled through the chamber. The evidence seemed clear and damning. They bring chaos wherever they go, Xanthara added. Their emotional, decision-making process disrupts carefully balanced negotiations. They form personal attachments that cloud their judgment. They make promises based on feelings rather than logic. Dr. Moonen flickered nervously. But their adaptability is remarkable. They have learned our languages, adopted our technologies, even begun to understand our cultural practices. Surely that shows potential. That very adaptability is the problem, Vextar replied coldly. They do not truly adopt our ways. They change them, modify them, blend them with their own chaotic methods. They create hybrid systems that please no one and satisfy nothing. The delegate from the Crystalline Consortium chimed in, her voice like breaking glass. My people tried to work with them on a mining operation in the Vega system. They insisted on rotating leadership positions, claiming it was more fair. The efficiency dropped by 30%. Fairness, Korthak spat. A concept that has no place in a universe governed by natural law. The strong lead, the weak follow. The wise make decisions, the foolish obey. These humans want to turn reality upside down. Around the chamber, delegates shared their own stories of human interference in established systems. Each tale reinforced the growing consensus that humanity was simply incompatible with civilized galactic society. Vextar called for order once more. The evidence is clear. Humans cannot be integrated into our community. They are too different, too chaotic, too primitive. For the good of all civilized species, we must take action. What do you propose? Asked the representative from the Silicon Brotherhood, his mechanical voice cutting through the chamber's ambient noise. Complete isolation, Vextar announced. A total ban on human participation in galactic affairs. No trade agreements, no diplomatic relations, no access to civilized space. We will quarantine their solar system and let them develop at their own pace away from species that have already achieved true civilization. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates seemed shocked by the severity of the proposal, but most appeared to approve of the decisive action. Xanthara's form pulsed with satisfaction. It is the logical solution. We cannot change their nature, so we must limit their influence. Perhaps in a few thousand years, they will evolve beyond their current primitive state. And if they refuse to accept this limitation? Dr. Moonen asked. Quietly. Korthak's laugh was like grinding stone. What choice do they have? They have barely mastered interplanetary travel. Their weapons are crude, their ships are slow, their understanding of galactic politics is non-existent. They will accept our decision because they have no other option. The formal vote was a mere formality. Species after species voiced their approval of the human ban. Even those who had initially expressed doubts eventually agreed that isolation was the kindest solution for all involved. As the session ended and delegates began filing out of the great chamber, conversations buzzed with relief and satisfaction. The human problem had been solved with typical galactic efficiency and wisdom. None of them noticed Dr. Moonen remaining behind, his energy form flickering with troubled thoughts as he stared at the empty council table. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice wondered if they had just made a terrible mistake. But such doubts were easily dismissed. After all, what could a primitive species like humanity possibly do in response to the unified decision of the galaxy's greatest civilizations? The ban would take effect immediately. Humanity was now officially cut off from the rest of the galaxy, isolated in their small corner of space like a quarantined disease. For their own good, of course. And for the good of everyone else. 5 years had passed since the human ban, and the galaxy had settled into a comfortable routine. Trade flowed smoothly between established partners, conflicts were resolved through traditional diplomatic channels, and order reigned supreme across civilized space. On the outer rim trading station called Kepler's Rest, the evening crowd gathered in Zarok's bar, as they did every night. The establishment served over 40 different species, each with their own preferred atmosphere, temperature, and intoxicating substances. Tonight, like most nights, the conversation eventually turned to humans. "Remember when they first showed up at the Galactic Trade Commission?" wheezed Glixton, a methane-breathing Aquarian whose words bubbled through his translation tank. They wanted to establish trade routes based on something called mutual benefit, instead of following the established hierarchy protocols. The table erupted in what passed for laughter among the mixed group of aliens. Vorthok, a young Rogan trader, slapped the table with his clawed hand. "My father told me about that. They actually suggested that smaller species should get the same trading terms as the great powers, as if a civilization's age and strength meant nothing." "Primitive thinking," agreed Silthan, a Velkari merchant whose compound eyes glittered with amusement. They could never grasp that some species are simply more advanced than others. They kept talking about equality as if the universe cared about such nonsense. At another table across the bar, a group of energy traders from various worlds shared their own stories. Nextal, a Thurion whose crystalline form pulsed with gentle light, transmitted her thoughts to the gathered group. "The humans once proposed solving the territorial dispute between my people and the Rogan Federation through something called a football match," she broadcast, her mental voice tinged with disbelief. "They said it would be fun and would help build friendship between our peoples." The assembled traders responded with various expressions of shock and amusement. The idea of reducing a centuries-old territorial negotiation to a mere game seemed laughably naive. "Fun," muttered Grexton, a silicon-based life form whose rocky exterior rumbled with what might have been laughter. They thought diplomacy should be fun. No wonder they could never understand real galactic politics. Near the bar itself, a group of younger aliens listened to these stories with fascination. Most of them had been too young during first contact to remember humans clearly, but the tales had become part of galactic folklore. "Is it true they tried to negotiate with pure emotion?" asked Yixel, a recently hatched Velkari whose exoskeleton still showed the bright colors of youth. "Worse than that," replied Captain Dorthak, an older Rogan whose scars told stories of battles across known space. "They would make agreements based on what they called feeling right, rather than following established legal frameworks. I once watched a human diplomat walk away from a perfectly profitable trade deal because he said the terms felt unfair to the other party." The younger aliens gasped in amazement. The idea of choosing fairness over profit seemed completely alien to their understanding of how the universe worked. "They had this strange concept called helping others," continued Captain Dorthak. "Not helping allies for strategic advantage, or helping trade partners to secure better deals. Just helping others because they thought it was the right thing to do." "How did their species ever survive long enough to develop space travel?" wondered Yixel. "Luck," suggested Silthan from across the room. "Pure dumb luck. Their planet had no major predators that could challenge them, so they never learned proper survival instincts." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Kyle Moonen, the Thurian xenobiologist who had opposed the human ban 5 years earlier. His energy form flickered nervously as he entered the bar, immediately drawing attention from the other patrons. "Look what the solar wind blew in," Vorthak called out mockingly. "It's the human lover himself." Dr. Moonen's form dimmed slightly at the hostile reception, but he moved to an empty table and ordered his usual energy supplement. He tried to ignore the stares and whispered comments from the other patrons. "Still think we were too harsh on your pet primitives?" Captain Dorthak asked, his voice carrying clearly across the bar. "I merely suggested that we might have been premature in our judgment," Dr. Moonen replied carefully. "Their adaptability was remarkable, even if their methods were unconventional." This brought another wave of laughter from the assembled aliens. The very idea that humans might have been underestimated seemed ridiculous to most of them. "Adaptability," scoffed Glixton. "They adapted so well that they started 3 trade wars in their first decade of galactic contact. Those were misunderstandings, Dr. Moonen protested weakly. Cultural differences that could have been resolved with patience and communication. Cultural differences, Nextal's mental voice rang with indignation. They refused to acknowledge the natural order of species hierarchy. They wanted to treat a civilization that had mastered energy manipulation for 10,000 years, the same as one that had just learned to leave their home planet. Around the bar, heads nodded in agreement. The established order of galactic civilization was based on age, technological advancement, and proven stability. Humans had possessed none of these qualities, yet had insisted on being treated as equals. Remember their United Nations model? Asked Silthan. They wanted every species to have an equal vote in galactic affairs, regardless of their contribution to civilization. A species that had existed for 1,000,000 years would have the same voice as one that had discovered fire yesterday. Madness, agreed Grexton. They could never understand that wisdom comes with age, that power must be earned through achievement and stability. Dr. Moonen took another sip of his energy supplement and tried a different approach. But consider their scientific achievements. In just 100 years of galactic contact, they made significant advances in several fields. By stealing our technology and making dangerous modifications to it, Captain Dorthak replied dismissively. They took proven designs that had worked safely for millennia and changed them because they thought they could improve everything. Their modifications were often quite innovative, Dr. Moonen insisted. They found new applications for existing technologies, created hybrid systems that violated every safety protocol in the galactic engineering standards, interrupted Silthan. Their innovations were accidents waiting to happen. The debate was interrupted by the arrival of news from the Galactic Communication Network. The bar's main screen flickered to life, showing the latest reports from across civilized space. Velkari Thurion, trade negotiations have reached a successful conclusion after 6 months of careful diplomacy, announced the neutral AI news service. Both sides praised the thorough and methodical approach that ensured all traditional protocols were followed. See? Vorthak pointed at the screen. That's how real diplomacy works. 6 months of proper negotiation, following established rules with experienced diplomats who understand how the galaxy operates. The humans would have tried to solve it in a week with some ridiculous game or emotional appeal, added Glixton. As the evening wore on, more stories emerged from the assembled patrons. Tales of human confusion at formal diplomatic events, their bewilderment at established trading customs, their persistent attempts to improve systems that had worked perfectly well for thousands of years. They tried to teach our younglings their concept of democracy. Yixel's elder sister chimed in from a nearby table. The idea that decisions should be made by counting individual opinions rather than following the wisdom of proven leaders. Democracy, Captain Dorthak spat. Government by mob rule. No wonder their own planet was constantly at war before they reached space. Dr. Moonen made one final attempt to defend his position. Their diversity of thought, their willingness to question established systems, their emotional connections to their decisions, these traits might have brought fresh perspectives to galactic civilization. The bar fell silent for a moment, then erupted in the loudest laughter of the evening. The idea that the galaxy needed fresh perspectives on systems that had maintained peace and prosperity for millennia seemed utterly absurd. Fresh perspectives, wheezed Glixton between bubbling laughs, like a child trying to give fresh perspectives on mathematics. Or a primitive trying to improve on evolution, added Grexton. As the evening wound down and patrons began returning to their ships or quarters, the consensus was clear. The galaxy had made the right choice 5 years ago. Humanity had proven itself incompatible with civilized society, and their isolation was for everyone's benefit. I wonder what they're doing now, mused Yixel as she prepared to leave. Probably still fighting among themselves, suggested Vorthak. Without civilized species to guide them, they've likely regressed even further into chaos. Best thing that could have happened to them, Captain Dorthak declared. Maybe in a few thousand years they'll evolve into something that can actually contribute to galactic society. Dr. Moonen finished his energy supplement and prepared to leave. His form flickered with resignation as he realized that his colleagues would never change their minds about humanity. Captain Nira Baylock stared at the scanner readouts on her ship's command bridge, her yellow Rogan eyes narrowing in confusion. The RSS Bloodfang had been conducting a routine patrol along the edge of the human quarantine zone, a duty that most Rogan officers considered boring and pointless. After 5 years, no human ships had attempted to cross the boundary, and none were expected to try. "Captain," called out her navigation officer, "we're detecting debris fields approximately 3 sectors outside the quarantine boundary." Nira turned her massive reptilian head toward the younger Rogan. "Debris? From what?" "Unknown, Captain. The field is large and scattered across several thousand kilometers. It appears to be the remains of multiple vessels." This was unusual. The area near the Omega Nebula had been peaceful for decades, despite the ongoing Cold War between the Velkari Empire and the Thurian Collective over territorial rights in the region. Neither side had escalated to actual combat in over 50 years. "Take us to investigate," Nira ordered. "But maintain battle readiness. If there's been a conflict, we need to determine which side started it." The Bloodfang changed course, its powerful engines propelling the warship toward the debris field. As they drew closer, the extent of the destruction became clear. Pieces of hull plating, twisted metal, and shattered crystal formations floated in the vacuum of space like the remnants of some cosmic graveyard. "Captain," the tactical officer reported, his voice tight with surprise, "I'm reading debris signatures from both Velkari and Thurian vessels. This appears to be the site of a major engagement between Imperial forces." Nira felt her blood run cold. Open warfare between two of the galaxy's major powers could destabilize the entire region. How recent? Based on the energy residue and dispersion patterns, no more than 3 months ago, possibly as recent as a few weeks. Why weren't we notified? "Of this battle?" Nira demanded. "Any conflict of this magnitude should have triggered immediate diplomatic alerts throughout the sector." Her communications officer, a scarred veteran named Keth Borak, looked up from his console with confusion evident in his posture. "Captain, there are no records of any official engagement between Velkari and Thurian forces. No diplomatic protests, no casualty reports, no territorial claims. It's as if this battle never officially happened." Nira pondered this information. Secret battles between major powers were not unheard of, but the scale of destruction suggested something far beyond a minor border skirmish. "Begin collecting debris samples for analysis. I want to know exactly what happened here." The salvage operation took several hours. The crew of the Bloodfang worked methodically, gathering pieces of hull material, weapon fragments, and any intact technology they could find. It was during this process that engineer Juan Tejo made the discovery that would change everything. "Captain," Juan called over the intercom from the engineering bay, "you need to see this immediately." Nira made her way down to engineering where Juan was examining a piece of debris unlike any she had seen before. The metal was smooth and dark, with a peculiar internal structure that seemed to shift and flow, even though it was clearly solid. "What is it?" Nira asked. Juan pointed to his analysis equipment. "The composition is unlike anything in our databases. The metallurgy is advanced beyond current galactic standards, and the manufacturing techniques are completely unknown. But that's not the strangest part." He activated a holographic display showing the debris field layout. "I've been mapping the distribution patterns of different debris types. Look at this." The hologram showed 3 distinct colors representing debris from different sources: blue for Velkari, red for Thurian, and green for the unknown material. "The unknown debris is mixed evenly throughout the field," Juan explained. "This isn't salvage or scavenged material that got caught in the battle. These ships were active participants in the engagement." Nira studied the display, her warriors' mind quickly grasping the implications. A third faction was involved in this battle. But who? And why isn't there any record of their involvement? "Captain," came an urgent call from the bridge. "We've found something you need to see." Nira hurried back to the command center, where her tactical officer was examining a large piece of debris that had been brought aboard. "It's some kind of data storage device," the officer explained. "The encryption is unlike anything we've seen. but our computers have managed to crack the outer layers. What did you find? Star charts, Captain. Detailed maps of this entire region, including tactical assessments of both Velkari and Thurian military installations. The level of detail is extraordinary. They knew ship movements, defensive positions, even personnel rotations. Nira felt a chill run down her spine. Who could have gathered this kind of intelligence without being detected? There's more, the tactical officer continued. The charts extend far beyond known space. They show star systems that aren't in any galactic database, trade routes through regions we thought were uninhabitable, and what appear to be colony markers in sectors we assumed were empty. One Tejo had joined them on the bridge, his expression grave. Captain, I've completed my analysis of the unknown metal. The atomic structure suggests it was forged in zero gravity using techniques we don't possess. Whoever made this has manufacturing capabilities that exceed anything the major powers have achieved. Show me those star charts again, Nira ordered. The holographic display materialized above the command table, showing a three-dimensional map of local space. The known systems appeared in their familiar blue, but now they were surrounded by dozens of green markers indicating previously unknown colonies, stations, and installations. If these charts are accurate, Nira said slowly, then someone has been building a secret civilization right under our noses. But who? One asked. And why? There are no unaccounted species in this region. Every inhabited system is catalogued and monitored. Keth Barak looked up from his communications console. Captain, I've been analyzing the transmission frequencies embedded in the debris. There are encrypted communication logs scattered throughout the wreckage. Can you decode them? Working on it now. The encryption is incredibly sophisticated, but our computers are making progress. For the next several hours, the crew of the Bloodfang worked to piece together the puzzle of the mysterious battle. Slowly, a picture began to emerge that challenged everything they thought they knew about their region of space. The unknown ships had not stumbled into a battle between Velkari and Thurian forces. According to the recovered data, they had orchestrated the entire engagement. The log showed detailed predictions of how each side would respond to various provocations, tactical analyses of their weaknesses, and carefully timed interventions designed to maximize casualties on both sides. Captain, Keth announced, his voice shaking slightly. I've managed to decode one of the communication logs. Play it. The bridge speakers crackled to life, and a voice emerged speaking in perfect galactic standard. The accent was unfamiliar, but the language was flawless. Task Force 7, this is Commander Park Jiho of the Indomitable. Velkari forces are moving into position as predicted. Thurian response fleet will arrive in approximately 6 hours. All units prepare for Phase 2 of the operation. Nira stared at the speakers in shock. Park Jiho. That's a human name. But that's impossible, Juan protested. Humans are quarantined to their solar system. They don't have the technology for interstellar travel, let alone ships capable of engaging major fleet units. Keth continued playing the decoded transmissions. More human voices filled the bridge, coordinating complex tactical maneuvers, discussing weapon systems that didn't exist in any galactic database, and referring to star charts that extended far beyond the boundaries of known space. This is Commander Lee Hanna to all units, came another voice. Intelligence reports confirm both enemy fleets are fully committed. Recommend transition to Phase 3 as scheduled. Repeat, all units prepare for Phase 3 operations. The final transmission was the most chilling of all. It came from someone identified as Admiral Sung Minho, and his message was brief but loaded with implications. Mission accomplished. Both target fleets neutralized with acceptable losses to our forces. Gather all salvageable technology and prepare to withdraw to Rally Point 7. The Galactic Council will never know we were here. The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed what they had just heard. Humans, supposedly primitive and quarantined, had somehow orchestrated a major battle between two galactic powers, participated in the engagement with advanced warships, and successfully covered their tracks to avoid detection. Captain, Juan said quietly, If this is true, then everything we thought we knew about humans is wrong. Nira stared at the debris field displayed on the main screen. Somewhere out there, humanity had been building a secret empire, while the galaxy mocked them as primitive creatures unfit for civilization. Get me a secure channel to Rogan High Command, Nira ordered. Priority Alpha classification. What are you going to tell them? Keth asked. Nira looked around at her crew, seeing her own shock and confusion reflected in their faces. That we may have just discovered the galaxy's most dangerous secret. As the Bloodfang prepared to leave the debris field, its holds filled with evidence of humanity's hidden activities, none of the crew could shake. 3 weeks after Captain Nira Balok's discovery, the most secure conference room on Nexus Prime buzzed with tension. Representatives from the 3 major powers sat around a circular table, their usual diplomatic composure replaced by barely contained anxiety. The evidence spread before them painted a picture that challenged everything they believed about the galaxy's power structure. Vexitar of the Velkari Empire studied the debris samples with 2 of his 4 eyes, while his other pair focused on the decoded transmissions. His insectoid features remained perfectly still, but those who knew him could detect the slight tremor in his antennae that indicated extreme agitation. These metallurgical reports cannot be accurate, he stated flatly. No species in known space possesses the manufacturing techniques required to create materials of this sophistication. Across from him, Zenthara's crystalline form pulsed with agitated energy. The Thurian representative had been silent for most of the emergency session, her consciousness absorbed in analyzing the tactical data recovered from the battle site. The intelligence gathered on our fleet movements is impossible, she transmitted to the assembled group. The information includes details about ship rotations, crew assignments, and defensive positions that were classified at the highest levels. No external agency should have had access to this data. Korthak, the massive Rogan Federation representative, slammed his clawed fist on the table. Yet somehow they did, and not only did they gather our secrets, they used that information to manipulate us into destroying each other. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the battle site from multiple angles, with debris patterns and energy signatures, mapped in precise detail. What had initially appeared to be a simple border skirmish between 2 rival powers now revealed itself as an elaborately orchestrated engagement designed to test unknown weapon systems against galactic military technology. Doctor. Kyle Moonen flickered nervously in his crystal housing. The Thurian scientist had been called in as an expert on human behavior, though his colleagues still viewed his research with skepticism. The tactical coordination displayed in these transmissions shows a level of strategic thinking that contradicts every assessment we made of human capabilities, he observed. Their ability to predict and manipulate the responses of both fleets suggests an understanding of galactic psychology that we severely underestimated. Underestimated? Vexitar repeated with cold precision. We classified them as primitive beings, incapable of complex thought. Yet these recordings show military commanders discussing weapon systems that our own scientists cannot identify. The door to the conference room slid open, admitting Captain Nira Balok and her chief engineer Juan Taiho. They had been summoned to provide first-hand testimony about their discovery, though Nira suspected her military career might end before the day was over. Captain Balok, Korthak acknowledged. Present your findings to the council. Nira activated her portable data display, projecting additional evidence that her crew had continued to analyze during their journey to Nexus Prime. The debris field contained technology fragments from at least 12 different human vessels, she reported. Based on the distribution patterns and energy signatures, these ships engaged both Velkari and Thurian forces simultaneously while maintaining tactical coordination across a battle zone spanning 3,000 kilometers. 12 ship, Zenthara repeated, her form flaring brighter. Our intelligence suggested that humans possessed fewer than 50 interstellar vessels total. How could they risk nearly a quarter of their fleet in a single engagement? Juan Taiho stepped forward, his expression grave. With respect, honored representatives, I believe our intelligence was completely wrong. The manufacturing signatures on these debris samples suggest mass production capabilities far exceeding our estimates. He activated a secondary display showing metallurgical analysis results. The hull materials show zero-gravity forging techniques, automated assembly patterns, and quality control standards that indicate these ships were not handcrafted prototypes, but products of an established industrial base. Impossible, Vextar insisted. Our monitoring stations around the Sol system show no signs of massive industrial development. We track every ship that enters or leaves human space. That's what we thought, Nira replied carefully. But the star charts recovered from the wreckage tell a different story. The holographic display shifted to show the extended stellar cartography data. Green markers now indicated human presence in dozens of systems that official galactic surveys had classified as uninhabited or uninhabitable. If these charts are accurate, Nira continued, then humans have established colonies and manufacturing facilities across a region of space larger than the core territories of any single galactic power. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. While the galaxy had been congratulating itself on successfully quarantining humanity, the humans had apparently been using that isolation to build a hidden empire. Korthak's yellow eyes gleamed with professional interest despite his obvious concern. Show us the tactical recordings again. I want to understand how they coordinated their attacks. The speakers filled with human voices as the decoded transmissions played once more. This time, the assembled aliens listened with growing alarm, as the recordings revealed the true scope of human capabilities. Phase 2 authorization confirmed, came the voice of Commander Park Jiho. Target identification complete. Velkari flagship is the Dreadnought Sovereign's Will. Thurion command vessel is the energy cruiser Transcendent Harmony. All units prepare for precision strikes. Precision strikes against our flagship vessels, Zenthara observed, her mental voice tight with anger. They specifically targeted our most advanced warships. The recording continued with combat coordination that demonstrated tactical sophistication far beyond what anyone had expected from humanity. This is Commander Lee, Hanata Strike Group Alpha. Velkari forces are implementing Defensive Pattern 77 Alpha. Switch to Countermeasure Package Delta 4 and maintain attack vectors 29 through 31. They had studied our tactical doctrines, Vextar realized with growing horror. Not just studied them, but developed specific countermeasures for our most classified defensive strategies. One Taiho nodded grimly. The debris analysis suggests their weapons were specifically designed to penetrate Velkari energy shields and Thurion quantum barriers. These weren't general-purpose weapons. They were custom-built tools for fighting galactic powers. A new voice emerged from the recordings, one that made every being in the room freeze with shock. This is Dr. An Suman aboard the research vessel, Prometheus. Combat data collection is proceeding as planned. We're gathering excellent performance metrics on both target fleets. The weapons' effectiveness tests are exceeding all projections. Dr. Moonan's form flickered frantically. An Suman, she was one of the human scientists who disappeared shortly after the quarantine was implemented. We assumed she had died in some primitive accident. She's very much alive, Nira said quietly, and apparently involved in military research that makes our own weapons development look primitive. The final recording was the most disturbing of all. Admiral Sung Minho's voice carried an authority that none of the aliens had expected to hear from any human. Attention all units. Phase 3 is now complete. Both target fleets have been neutralized with minimal losses to our forces. Intelligence. Gathering objectives have been achieved. All vessels prepare for extraction to Rally Point 7. He's treating engagement with 2 galactic powers like a training exercise, Korthak observed, his warrior's instincts recognizing the calm professionalism in the human admiral's voice. But the most troubling part is what comes next. Admiral Minho's recording continued. The data we've gathered here will be invaluable for the homecoming protocol. Both the Velkari and Thurion have proven vulnerable to our tactical innovations. Phase 4 can proceed as scheduled. Homecoming protocol, Zenthara repeated. They're planning something larger. Dr. Moonan flickered with nervous energy. In human culture, homecoming refers to a return to one's place of origin. But in this context, they're planning to return to galactic civilization. Vextar finished, his voice carrying a chill that had nothing to do with his alien biology. One Taiho activated another data display. The star charts show supply lines and staging areas that suggest major fleet concentrations. If their industrial capacity matches what we've observed, they could field hundreds of advanced warships. Hundreds, Korthak repeated, his professional admiration warring with his growing alarm. While we've been mockingly them as primitives, they've been building an invasion fleet. The room fell silent as each representative contemplated the magnitude of their miscalculation. Humanity, dismissed as chaotic and primitive, had apparently spent 5 years of isolation preparing for war against the entire galactic community. We need to warn the other powers, Santhara transmitted urgently. Every species needs to know what's coming. Warn them of what? Vextar asked bitterly. That we were wrong about everything? That our supposedly primitive prisoners have become the galaxy's greatest threat? Captain Nira cleared her throat carefully. There's one more thing, honored representatives. The final transmission we decoded was sent just 3 days ago. The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime had never been so full. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy crowded into the massive chamber, their usual casual conversations replaced by nervous whispers and worried exchanges. Word of the emergency session had spread quickly through diplomatic channels, carrying with it rumors of a discovery that would reshape galactic politics forever. Vextar stood at the central podium, his forearms moving in the precise gestures that indicated formal address among his people. Around him, the 3-tiered seating arrangement buzzed with speculation from hundreds of different species, each trying to understand why they had been summoned with such urgency. Honored representatives, Vextar began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. We have gathered you here today to present evidence of a situation that threatens the stability of our entire civilization. The chamber began to quiet, though. Scattered conversations continued as delegates struggled to understand what crisis could possibly warrant such dramatic language. 3 weeks ago, a routine patrol by the Rogan Federation discovered debris from what appeared to be a battle between Velkari and Thurion forces near the Omega Nebula, Vextar continued. What they found has forced us to reconsider everything. We thought we knew about the galaxy we inhabit. A ripple of curiosity moved through the assembled crowd. Border skirmishes between major powers were not unusual, though they rarely required full galactic attention. Captain Nira Balok stepped forward to the secondary podium, her massive Rogan form imposing even among the diverse gathering. I will present the evidence we discovered, so that all species may understand the magnitude of what we face. She activated the chamber's central holographic display, showing the debris field as her ship had first encountered it. The scattered wreckage looked unremarkable to most observers, just another casualty of galactic politics. Initial scans showed debris from both Velkari and Thurion vessels, Nira explained. But detailed analysis revealed the presence of a third participant in this engagement. Technology fragments from ships of unknown origin, constructed with manufacturing techniques that exceed current galactic standards. A murmur of interest arose from the crowd. Unknown technology always attracted attention from the galaxy's scientific community. The metallurgical analysis showed construction methods that we do not possess, Nira continued. Zero-gravity forging, automated assembly patterns and quality control standards that suggest industrial capacity, far exceeding anything in our databases. She paused, letting the implications sink in before continuing with the revelation that would change everything. More disturbing were the star charts we recovered from the wreckage, detailed maps showing colonies, installations, and supply routes in regions of space that we had classified as uninhabited. The holographic display shifted to show the extended stellar cartography, with green markers indicating human presence across dozens of previously unknown systems. Gasps and exclamations of shock arose from various sections of the chamber. But the most significant discovery was a series of communication logs from the unknown vessels, logs that revealed the identity of this mysterious third faction. Nira activated the audio playback system, and Commander Park Jiho's voice filled the chamber with crystalline clarity. Task Force 7, this is Commander Park Jiho of the Indomitable. Velkari forces are moving into position as predicted. Thurian response fleet will arrive in approximately 6 hours. All units prepare for Phase 2 of the operation. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The name was clearly human, but the implications seemed impossible to most of the assembled delegates. "Silence!" Korthak roared from his position at the High Council table. "Let the evidence speak." The recordings continued, each transmission revealing more of humanity's hidden capabilities. Dr. An Suman's voice discussing weapons effectiveness, tests. Commander Lee Hanna coordinating tactical maneuvers that demonstrated intimate knowledge of galactic military doctrines. Each revelation drove the chamber deeper into stunned disbelief. In the Aquarian section, Ambassador Thex bubbled nervously in his methane tank. "This cannot be accurate. Humans are quarantined to their home system. They lack the technology for interstellar warfare." That is what we believed. Zenthara's mental voice reached every consciousness in the chamber. The evidence suggests we were catastrophically wrong. The final recording began to play, Admiral Sung Minho's authoritative voice cutting through the shocked murmurs like a blade. "Attention all units. Phase 3 is now complete. Both target fleets have been neutralized, with minimal losses to our forces. Intelligence gathering objectives have been achieved. The data we've gathered here will be invaluable for the homecoming protocol." The word homecoming sent a chill through the chamber. Even species that had never interacted directly with humans understood the implications. "They're planning to return," whispered Dr. Moonen, his energy form flickering with barely contained anxiety. But it was the final message, the one directed specifically at the galactic community, that brought absolute silence to the Great Hall. "To the Galactic Council and all species who supported our isolation," Admiral Minho's voice continued with calm authority. "The quarantine of humanity ends now, not because you have chosen to lift it, but because we no longer recognize your authority to maintain it." The silence in the chamber was so complete that the ambient hum of life support systems became audible. Hundreds of different species representing thousands of years of civilization and diplomatic experience sat frozen in shock at the casual dismissal of their collective authority. "We will be returning to galactic civilization," the recording continued. "Those species that treated us with respect during our isolation will find us to be generous allies. Those that did not will learn why isolation made us stronger, not weaker." The final words hung in the air like a death sentence. "We suggest you prepare for our return." For nearly a full minute, the chamber remained in absolute silence. No delegate spoke. No translator hummed with activity. No communication devices chimed with incoming messages. The galaxy's leaders sat paralyzed by the magnitude of their miscalculation. The silence was broken by a new voice, one that made every being in the chamber freeze with terror. It came through the chamber's communication system, broadcast simultaneously to every device in the hall. "Greetings, Galactic Council." The voice was human, female, and carried an authority that commanded immediate attention. On the main display screen, a figure materialized. A human woman in what appeared to be a military uniform of unknown design. "I am Ambassador Lee Hanna, representing the Human Colonial Federation. I am speaking to you from the bridge of the diplomatic vessel New Horizon, currently stationed outside this facility." Panic erupted throughout the chamber. Security alerts began flashing as station defenses activated, but the human continued speaking with perfect calm. "Please do not be alarmed. We come in peace, as we always have. We are here to discuss the terms of our return to galactic society." Vextar found his voice first, his forearms trembling with shock. "This is impossible. Human ships cannot penetrate our defense perimeters. Our sensors show no vessels in the area." Ambassador Lee smiled with what might have been pity. "Honored Vextar, your sensors show exactly what we choose to show them. We have been observing this session since it began, along with similar gatherings, on every major world in the galaxy. The implication was staggering. If humans could penetrate the most secure facilities in galactic civilization without detection, then nowhere was safe from their reach. As I speak, Ambassador Lee continued, Human vessels are revealing themselves above every major population center, military installation, and government facility across known space. We are not invading. We are announcing our presence. Throughout the chamber, personal communication devices began activating as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Velkari homeworld, the Thurian energy sphere, the Rugan military headquarters, all reported the sudden appearance of human fleets that had somehow materialized without triggering any defensive systems. For 5 years you believed you had contained us, Ambassador Lee observed. You celebrated our isolation, mocked our primitive nature, and dismissed us as unworthy of galactic civilization. During that time, we learned, we grew, and we prepared. The display shifted to show tactical readouts that made every military officer in the chamber go cold with fear. Hundreds of human vessels, each displaying technological capabilities that exceeded anything in the galactic arsenal. We do not come as conquerors, Ambassador Lee stated firmly. We come as equals, seeking our rightful place in galactic society. But this time we will not accept dismissal, ridicule, or isolation. Korthak, his warrior's pride finally overcoming his shock, rose from his seat. What do you want from us? Respect, came the simple reply. Recognition that humanity has earned its place among the stars. We offer our friendship to those who will accept it, our cooperation to those who seek it, and our protection to those who need it. The ambassador's expression hardened slightly. But we will not tolerate mockery, dismissal, or attempts to control our destiny. The age of galactic condescension toward humanity is over. Dr. Moonen flickered frantically. You speak of protection. Protection from what?